Good evening, Dot. Let's begin with a quiet question, one you likely ask yourself in moments of stillness, in the space between effort and result. It is a simple question, yet it carries the weight of our ambitions. Why do some endeavors flourish, while others, pursued with equal passion, seem to falter? We are often told the answer lies in the grand moment, the brilliant idea, the explosive breakthrough. We are sold a myth of the overnight success, the sudden inspiration, the lucky break that changes everything in an instant. We come to believe that achievement is an event. We wait for the catalyst. We anticipate the sign. We look to the horizon for the turning point that will make all the effort, all the patience, all the discipline finally make sense. That belief is the most common point of failure. It is the anchor that holds great ships in harbor. Because success is not an event. It is not a destination you arrive at one bright morning. It is not a trophy you are handed after a single heroic effort. That moment on the stage, that closing of the deal, that launch of the project you envisioned. It is not the cause of your victory. It is the evidence of it. It is the visible public proof of a process that has been running silently, diligently, and privately for a very long time. To mistake the evidence for the cause is to mistake the harvest for the farming. The harvest is a day. The farming is a season. Let me offer you a different way to see it. Picture a great bridge. When you drive across it, you see the soaring towers, the elegant cables, the vast span connecting 2 points. It is a testament to human achievement. But the true strength of that bridge, the reason it holds under the weight of traffic and the force of the wind, is not primarily in what you see. It is in what is buried, unseen, below the waterline and deep in the earth. The massive caissons, the pilings driven into bedrock, the vast network of foundations that no traveler will ever see or appreciate. The visible structure is magnificent, but it is only possible because of the invisible work. Your life is no different. The visible achievements, the promotion, the thriving business, the strong relationships, the personal mastery, these are the towers and the span. They are what the world sees and acknowledges, but they are supported, always, by an inner architecture, a substructure of character, of habit, of thought, of emotional discipline. This is your inner equilibrium. It is the work done below the waterline of your daily awareness. It is the private cultivation of stability, of balance, of centeredness, long before any public pressure is applied. The world sees the bridge, but you must be the engineer who tends to the foundations. For when the storm comes, it does not test the paint on the cables. It tests the depth of the pilings in the rock. This leads us to a fundamental law, one you can take to the bank of your future. It is the law of preparedness meeting opportunity. Opportunity in this world is not rare. It is constant. It flows past you every day in the form of a challenge, a conversation, a problem to solve, a chance to extend kindness, a moment to choose discipline over comfort. What is rare is not the opportunity itself. What is rare is the prepared state capable of recognizing it, seizing it, and turning it to a meaningful result. Luck is not a force of chance. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. But we must understand the sequence. Preparation is not a frantic sprint you begin when you see the opportunity on the horizon. That is already too late. Preparation is the quiet daily investment you make in yourself when there is no opportunity in sight. It is the study without the exam schedule. It is the character building without the client. It is the character building without the crisis. You do the work not because the reward is imminent, but because it is the price of admission to a future you cannot yet see. Then, when the opportunity manifests, as it inevitably will, you are not scrambling to get ready. You are already there. You are already prepared. The meeting is not a collision of chance. It is a rendezvous you have earned. Now, why is this inner equilibrium, this prepared state, so critical? Because life is not conducted in a laboratory under controlled conditions. Life applies pressure. And pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is your revealer. It does not create your character. It exposes it. It strips away the veneer of intention and shows the grain of your actual habit, your true default setting. Consider two people facing the same external pressure. The first is a leader whose project is failing. Deadlines are missed. Morale is low. Blame is being passed like a currency. The pressure is intense. If this leader's inner state is one of reactivity, of anxiety, of seeking to control every detail out of fear, what will the pressure reveal? It will reveal panic. It will reveal short-term decisions that sacrifice long-term trust. It will reveal a brittle spirit that breaks under load, and that breakage will cascade through the team. The project may be saved by sheer force, but the cost will be a team that has learned to fear failure more than it desires success. Now, consider the second leader in the same situation. The facts are identical. Failing project, missed deadlines, low morale. But this leader has cultivated an inner equilibrium. They have done the work below the waterline. Under the same pressure, what is revealed? Not panic, but poise. Not a need to control others, but a focus on controlling their own response. They see the crisis not as a threat to their ego, but as a complex problem to be solved. Their calm is not indifference. It is a strategic space. It creates room for clear thought, for listening, for thoughtful correction. The pressure reveals not brittleness, but resilience. And that resilience becomes a platform upon which the team can regroup and rebuild. The pressure did not create the poise. It merely revealed the foundation that was already there. Here is another example, closer to home. Consider two individuals facing profound personal disappointment, a dream job lost, a relationship ended, a financial reversal. The pressure of that disappointment is a weight on the soul. The first individual, without an inner equilibrium, will be defined by the event. The pressure will reveal a pattern of identity fused to circumstance. I lost my job, therefore I am a failure. The relationship ended, therefore I am unlovable. The narrative is one of collapse. The inner world is at the mercy of the outer event. The second individual faces the same facts. The same job lost. The same relationship ended. But the pressure reveals something else. It reveals a separation between event and identity. It reveals an inner core that, while wounded, is not shattered. It reveals the pattern. This happened to me. It is painful, but it is not the final definition of me. I am more than this single outcome. This is not denial. It is a foundational stability that allows for feeling the pain without being consumed by it. The pressure reveals not a collapse, but a capacity to endure, to process, and eventually to rebuild. In both cases, the pressure was identical. What it revealed was the quality of the inner architecture. This is why your focus is the most valuable currency you possess. It is the tool with which you build or neglect that inner architecture. You must protect your focus as a master jeweler protects a flawless diamond. It is not about hiding from the world. It is about intentional stewardship of your own mind. Distraction is not merely a thief of time. It is a saboteur of depth. It fragments your mental energy, keeping you in the shallow waters of reaction, where true equilibrium cannot be built. Every ping, every notification, every unscheduled drift into triviality is a small erosion of your capacity for sustained thought. And sustained thought is the bedrock of preparation. How then do we build? The process is sequential. It is a growth sequence you can apply to any skill, any character trait, any aspect of your life where you seek improvement. It is not mysterious. It is methodical. First, you learn. You acquire the knowledge, the principle, the insight. You read, you listen, you study. But learning alone is passive. It is possession without action. So second, you must apply. You take the principle into the laboratory of your own life. You try it. You execute, however clumsily. This is where theory meets the friction of reality. Application without evaluation, however, is just activity. So third, you evaluate. You step back. You look at the results of your application. What worked? What did not? Where was the gap between your intention and the outcome? This requires brutal honesty with yourself. Evaluation without correction is just criticism. So fourth, you correct. You adjust your approach. You refine the skill. You close the gap. You tweak the system. This is the heart of improvement. And finally, you persist. You run the sequence. Learn, apply, evaluate, correct. Not once, but in a continuous cycle. You persist through the awkwardness of early application. You persist through the discomfort of honest evaluation. You persist through the patience required for careful correction. This sequence is the engine of all tangible growth. This brings us to a central pillar: discipline over motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It is the wind in your sails. It is wonderful when it comes. But you cannot command the wind. Discipline is not a feeling. It is a decision. It is the set of oars you can pick up and row with regardless of the wind. If you build your life's voyage waiting for the wind of motivation, you will be forever becalmed, drifting on the currents of your latest emotion. You must build a vessel that can move under its own power. That power is discipline. It is the commitment to the sequence, especially when you do not feel like it. It is the decision to do the work below the waterline when no one is cheering, when no result is visible, when the feeling of motivation is utterly absent. Systems beat moods. Every time. Do not rely on a surge of emotion to build your bridge. Rely on a daily blueprint. A system is a series of predetermined actions you take regardless of your emotional state. It is the non-negotiable hour of study. It is the unbroken chain of mornings where you begin with centering your mind. It is the weekly review of your progress. Your mood may resist. Your system should not care. Your mood is a passenger, often complaining about the route. Your discipline is the driver. You acknowledge the passenger, but you do not hand them the wheel. You stay on the road dictated by your plan. This is how you build equity in yourself. Day by quiet day, stroke by steady stroke. This requires a quality that is in desperately short supply, yet is the signature of all masters: strategic patience. We misunderstand patience. We see it as passive waiting, as idle hope. That is not patience. That is stagnation. Strategic patience is active cultivation. It is the understanding that all things of substance grow according to seasons, not schedules. You do not plant an acorn on Monday and demand an oak tree on Friday. You plant it. You water it. You protect the soil. You understand that its growth happens underground, invisible, before a single green shoot appears, and you tend to it through all the seasons. Through the growth of spring, the heat of summer, the shedding of autumn, the dormancy of winter. You do not dig it up every week to check the roots. You trust the process. You honor the season. Your own growth follows the same natural law. There are seasons for explosive learning and application. Spring. There are seasons for enduring heat and pressure, where your growth is tested. Summer. There are seasons for harvesting results, for enjoying the fruits. Autumn. And there are necessary seasons of consolidation, of rest, of internal repair and planning. Winter. To demand perpetual summer is to ensure burnout. To fear winter is to reject a phase essential for future growth. Strategic patience means you work with the season you are in, not against it. You do the appropriate work. In the winter, you plan and repair your tools. You do not rage against the lack of leaves on the trees. You use the time to strengthen the roots. This long-term view is the antidote to the frenzy of short-term disappointment. It connects today's small correct action to the distant magnificent outcome. Of course, you cannot manage what you do not measure. This is where feedback and refinement become your compass. You must have a way to track your progress, however simple. Not to judge yourself harshly, but to inform your correction. Are your actions moving you toward your inner equilibrium or away from it? You must become a scientist of your own life. You run the experiment of your day, your week, your effort. You collect the data of your results. You look at it without flinching. And then, with calm detachment, you refine your approach. This is not about self-condemnation. It is about course correction. A ship crossing an ocean is off course 99% of the time. The navigation is not about never deviating. It is about constantly taking readings and making the small necessary adjustments. Your daily reflection, your weekly review, your honest conversation with a trusted advisor. These are your navigational readings. They tell you if the current of distraction or the wind of emotion is pulling you off your bearing. And then, with discipline, you adjust the wheel. You refine your habits. You correct your focus. This iterative process of action, feedback, and refinement is the very mechanism of mastery. Now, a powerful force begins to work in your favor. Momentum. The compounding effect. This is the flywheel effect. Imagine a massive, heavy flywheel. A great metal disc mounted on an axle. Your initial pushes are exhausting. You push with all your might, and it moves an inch. You push again, another inch. It seems like hopeless, backbreaking labor for negligible gain. But you persist. You push in a consistent direction. Learn, apply, evaluate, correct. Push. Discipline over motivation. Push. Strategic patience. Push. Each push adds a little more speed to the wheel. And then, at a certain point, a magical thing happens. The momentum of the wheel itself begins to work for you. The heavy weight that resisted you now assists you. Your pushes become easier. The wheel turns faster. It begins to generate its own force. What was once a grinding effort becomes a smooth, powerful, almost self-sustaining rotation. This is the compounding of your efforts. The first week of a new discipline is the hardest push. The first month requires sheer will. But after 100 days of consistent directional effort, the momentum starts to carry you. The habit is ingrained. The skill feels more natural. The inner equilibrium begins to feel like your default state, not a forced posture. Your focused efforts compound. Your knowledge compounds. Your peace compounds. Your capacity compounds. Small daily victories, seemingly insignificant in isolation, accumulate into an undeniable advantage. You are no longer pushing a stationary wheel. You are guiding a moving one. This is when work feels less like labor and more like leverage. But remember, the flywheel can slow down. It can stop. If you cease the discipline pushes, friction will eventually win. Your job is not just to start the wheel, but to maintain its momentum with consistent, intelligent effort. So what is the ultimate goal? It is not a single breakthrough, a single victory, a single moment of perfect balance. The goal is to make the process itself your lifestyle. To make emotional elevation your natural plane of existence. The breakthrough is not a door you walk through once, leaving the old world behind. The breakthrough is a stairway you learn to climb, and then you make your home on the higher floor. The view is better. The air is clearer, but maintenance is required. You must still clean the windows. You must still repair the steps. You live there now, but it is a dynamic living, not a static arrival dot. This elevation is emotional, yes, but it is not based on fleeting feeling. It is based on the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your own foundation, from knowing that you have done the work below the waterline, from knowing that pressure will reveal not cracks but strength, from knowing that your discipline is your engine and your focus is your rudder. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, hoping for a fair wind. You are the navigator, capable of sailing in any weather because you understand the principles of the sea and the integrity of your own ship. Let's bring this back to the very beginning, to the principle of your inner equilibrium. Equilibrium is not the absence of storm. It is not a life of flat, calm water. That does not exist. Equilibrium is the stability of the deep ocean beneath the chaotic surface waves. A storm may rage for 100 miles, whipping the surface into a frenzy. But 1,000 feet down, there is a profound calm, a steady, immense pressure, and a near stillness. The storm is real, but it is a surface event. Your goal is to cultivate the depth, to build your weight, your mass, your substance so far below the daily weather that you cannot be capsized by a change in the wind. Your emotions may be waves. They have their own energy and power. But you are not the wave. You are the ocean floor from which it rises and upon which it eventually rests. You contain the storm without becoming it. How do you build this depth? You begin with a single sober audit. Ask yourself, where am I reactive? In what areas of my life does a small event, a criticism, a delay, a disappointment, produce a large inner disturbance? That is your signal. That is the shallow water. That is where you need to drive pilings. Not by fighting the reaction in the moment, but by doing the preparation work when the moment is calm. You build the discipline of the pause. Between the event and your response, you insert a space. In that space lies your freedom and your power. You build the discipline of the daily practice that strengthens your core, whether that is meditation, study, physical training, or reflective writing. You build the discipline of guarding your focus, of saying no to the trivial many so you can attend to the essential few. You build the discipline of the sequence. Learn, apply, evaluate, correct. You do this not as a grand, once-a-year purge, but as the daily hygiene of a high-performance mind. You will be tempted constantly to return to the myth of the event, to believe that the next big thing, the new job, the new relationship, the new purchase, will finally provide the stability you seek. It will not. It cannot. External things are always subject to change. They are the surface waves. To anchor your peace to them is to anchor your ship to a floating log. It will drift with every current. Your anchor must be dropped into your own character, into your own proven capacity to respond with wisdom, to act with integrity, to endure with grace, and to persist with faith in the process. That anchor is forged in the daily, unglamorous work of self-governance. So start today. Not with a frenzy, but with a decision. Decide on one small area where you will cultivate depth. Perhaps it is the first hour of your day. You reclaim it. No inputs, no news, no social media, just you, your thoughts, and a plan for the day centered on your priorities. Perhaps it is your physical health. You commit not to a dramatic transformation, but to the unbroken chain of daily movement, however modest. Perhaps it is your mind. You commit to reading 10 pages of substantive material every night, one small piling driven deep. So start today, not with a frenzy, but with a decision. Decide on one small area where you will cultivate depth. Perhaps it is the first hour of your day. You reclaim it. No inputs, no news, no social media. Just you, your thoughts, and a plan for the day centered on your priorities. Perhaps it is your physical health. You commit not to a dramatic transformation, but to the unbroken chain of daily movement, however modest. Perhaps it is your mind. You commit to reading 10 pages of substantive material every night. One small piling, driven deep. Then protect it. That 1 hour, that one walk, those 10 pages, they are sacred. They are your below the waterline work. You will not see the bridge today. You are not supposed to. You are pouring concrete in the dark. It is quiet work. It is private work. It is the most important work you will do. Week by week. As you protect that one discipline, you will feel a shift. The first shift is often just the absence of a previous anxiety. You feel a bit more solid. A small wave that would have knocked you off balance now meets a little more resistance. That is the feeling of a foundation being laid. That is the beginning of your inner equilibrium. From that one solid point, you can then extend the foundation to another area and another. You connect the pilings. You create a network of stability. Remember the law of preparedness meeting opportunity. As you do this work, you are preparing for a future you cannot yet imagine. You are making yourself ready for opportunities that are currently just whispers. You are building the capacity to handle pressures that have not yet formed. You are, in essence, building a different future self, a self that is not easily shaken, a self that operates from a deep well of calm power, a self that the current you would look at with a sense of respect. This is the path. It is not complicated, but it is not easy. It requires you to trade the cheap thrill of reaction for the profound satisfaction of response. It requires you to value depth over spectacle. It requires you to be the architect of your own inner world, rather than a tenant in a house built by circumstance. The principle of your inner equilibrium is this. Stability is an inside job. Peace is a personal construction project. Strength is accumulated in silent increments. You do not find it. You build it. And you build it not for the day when everything is perfect, but for the day when everything is not. You build it for the storm you cannot yet see, so that when it comes, you are not fearing the collapse of your bridge. You are simply observing the weather, anchored in the knowledge of what lies beneath the waves. You are steady, not because the sea is calm, but because your hull is sound and your ballast is deep. That is equilibrium. That is power. That is the quiet victory of a life intentionally built. Now, this understanding must move from principle to practice. The gap between knowing and doing is where most lives are lost. So let's talk about the practice of maintenance, for even the deepest foundation can be neglected. Erosion is a silent process. It happens not with a dramatic landslide, but grain by grain, thought by thought, compromise by small compromise. You must become the vigilant keeper of your own inner estate. This is not about paranoia or harsh self-scrutiny. It is about a gentle, consistent awareness. A regular check-in. You must learn to listen to the subtle signals of instability before they become cracks in the structure. A short temper is a signal. A sense of persistent anxiety is a signal. A growing cynicism is a signal. These are not character flaws to be condemned. They are feedback instruments. They are the gauges on your dashboard telling you that something needs attention below the hood. Ignoring them is not toughness. It is foolishness. The skilled navigator doesn't ignore a shift in the wind. They adjust the sails. So you must develop the habit of self-diagnosis, not from a place of criticism, but from a place of care. Ask yourself, at regular intervals, where is my focus drifting? What small compromises have I begun to tolerate? What am I neglecting that I know, deep down, strengthens my core? This practice of honest inquiry is the maintenance schedule for your soul. Then there is the practice of renewal. No system, no discipline can run forever without fuel. Strategic patience includes seasons of rest, but rest is not the same as collapse. Rest is intentional renewal. It is the deliberate choice to step away from the work of doing and engage in the work of being. To replenish the well from which you draw your discipline. For some, this is time in nature. For others, it is immersion in art or music. For others, it is solitude or deep connection with loved ones without agenda. You must identify what truly restores you, and you must schedule it with the same seriousness as you schedule your productive work. This is not a luxury. It is a maintenance requirement. The most powerful engines have cooling systems. Without them, they seize your mind, your spirit, your emotional core. They require a cooling system. They require periods where the pressure is off, where the focus is on reception rather than production. This is how you avoid the brittleness of chronic strain. This is how you maintain flexibility and resilience. You are not a machine designed for endless output. You are a living system designed for rhythm. Honor the rhythm of exertion and recovery. In the recovery phase, your subconscious mind integrates the lessons, repairs the minor tears, and prepares for the next phase of growth. To skip recovery is to sabotage your own compounding effect. Now, let's consider the environment you build around this inner work. You are not an island. Your equilibrium exists within an ecosystem of people, information, and physical space. You must become the curator of that ecosystem. You cannot control everything, but you have immense power over what you allow to occupy the space closest to you. Your physical desk, your social feed, your circle of conversation. Every input is a seed. It will grow something in the soil of your mind. Are you planting seeds of distraction, anxiety, and triviality? Or are you planting seeds of wisdom, inspiration, and focused intent? Be ruthless in your curation. This is not about building a sterile bubble. It is about ensuring that the dominant influences in your life are aligned with the person you are building, not the person you are reacting against. The voices you listen to, the visuals you consume, the conversations you engage in, they are all either building your foundation or eroding it. Choose them with the care of a gardener, choosing what to plant in a precious limited plot of land. Protect your attention ecology. For your attention is the water and sunlight that will cause whatever seeds are present to grow. You want a garden, not a weed patch. And what grows in that garden becomes your reality. It shapes your default thoughts, which in turn dictate your emotional responses and your actions. This is why the curation is not a secondary concern. It is primary maintenance. You would not pour contaminated fuel into a high-performance engine and expect it to run smoothly. Do not pour a contaminated stream of information and interaction into your mind and expect it to produce clarity and peace. Your inner equilibrium is fed by what you let in. So audit the pipelines. What news source enters your mind first thing in the morning? What does your social media scroll feed you? Comparison or inspiration? What is the tone of the conversations you most frequently have? Are they constructive, supportive, expansive? Or are they grievance-based, cynical, and small? You have a choice. You can change the channel. You can mute the noise. You can distance yourself from chronic drains. This is not an act of negativity. It is an act of stewardship. You are protecting the sanctity of your building site. Now, let us address a common point of resistance: the belief that this level of discipline and curation is restrictive, that it somehow limits your freedom or your experience of life. This is a profound misunderstanding. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you feel like in the moment. That is chaos masquerading as liberty. It leads directly to being a slave to every passing impulse, every external demand, every emotional weather pattern. Real freedom is the power to choose your response. It is the capacity to act from principle rather than react from pressure. The discipline you build is not a cage. It is the scaffolding that allows you to construct a life so strong and so spacious that you have immense freedom within it. The rules of architecture are not restrictions on the builder. They are what make the soaring cathedral possible. Without them, you have only a pile of stones. Your daily disciplines, your focused habits, your curated environment. These are the architectural principles of your inner life. They create the space where real freedom from anxiety, freedom from reactivity, freedom from the opinions of others, can actually reside. The person with no inner discipline is the least free person in the world. They are perpetually buffeted, perpetually in crisis, perpetually starting over. Their life is a series of emergencies. Your goal is to move from a life of emergencies to a life of management, from a life of reaction to a life of design. That is the ultimate freedom. This brings us to the role of language in your equilibrium. The words you speak, both aloud and in the silent dialogue of your mind, are the architects of your emotional state. You cannot repeatedly tell yourself a story of helplessness and expect to feel powerful. You cannot narrate your life as a series of victimizations and expect to feel in command. Your internal dialogue is the running commentary on the construction project. Is it the voice of a supportive foreman noting challenges but focused on solutions? Or is it the voice of a harsh critic highlighting every flaw and predicting failure? You must take conscious control of this narrative. This is not about positive affirmations you don't believe. It is about moving from a subjective, emotional commentary to an objective, factual assessment. Instead of, I can't handle this, the factual assessment might be, this is a complex challenge. I have handled complex challenges before. I will break it down and address the first step. See the difference. One is a surrender of agency. The other is a retention of agency. It is calm. It is factual. It is forward-looking. Practice editing your internal dialogue. When you hear a catastrophic or helpless statement form in your mind, pause. Interrupt it. Rephrase it into a statement of fact and a statement of action. This simple practice rewires your emotional response over time. It builds the mental habit of solution orientation. It is a direct application of the principle. You are building the foundation with the very words you use in the quiet of your own mind. And what of fear? That ancient signal, deeply wired into our being. Fear will visit your construction site. It is inevitable. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown that lies beyond your current design. Equilibrium is not the absence of fear. It is the correct relationship with fear. Fear is a messenger, not a commander. Its job is to alert you to perceived risk. Your job is to assess the message. Is this fear indicating a real, immediate physical danger? If so, heed it. That is its proper function. But 99% of the fears that disturb your equilibrium are not of this kind. They are fears of social consequence, of embarrassment, of future scenarios that may never come to pass. In these cases, you must thank the messenger for its alert, and then you must dismiss it from the strategy meeting. Do not let fear sit at the head of the table. Let it deliver its message to the part of you that is calm, that is factual, that is focused on the blueprint. Then, make your decision based on principle and on your prepared design, not on the adrenaline of the fear signal. This is a skill. You practice it by feeling the fear, acknowledging its presence without drama, and then consciously choosing to place your attention on the next constructive action. Action is the antidote to anxiety. Directed, purposeful action proves to your nervous system that you are not helpless. It restores the sense of control that fear seeks to strip away. Let's talk about the relationship between your equilibrium and your physical vessel, your body. The mind does not float separately from the physical self. It is intimately connected. You cannot neglect the body and expect the mind to maintain clarity and calm. Fatigue, poor nutrition, and chronic stress are like termites in the foundation of your inner equilibrium. They weaken the structure from within, making it vulnerable to pressures it could otherwise withstand. This is not a call for a perfect diet or an extreme fitness regimen. It is a call for respect. Respect the fundamental needs of the organism that carries your consciousness. Provide it with consistent sleep. Move it regularly, not as punishment, but as maintenance to circulate energy and clear metabolic waste. Feed it nourishing fuel, not as a rigid doctrine, but as a principle of providing quality building materials for cellular repair and brain function. When you are well rested, well nourished, and physically resilient, your emotional threshold is higher. Your patience is deeper. Your focus is sharper. The same challenge that would overwhelm a depleted system can be met with calm resourcefulness by a nourished one. Caring for your body is not vanity. It is the most basic level of below the waterline work. It is pouring concrete, laying rebar. It is non-negotiable. Now we must expand this concept beyond the personal. Your inner equilibrium is not a selfish pursuit. Its greatest value is expressed in your capacity to contribute to others. A turbulent person cannot calm a storm around them. A distracted person cannot offer deep attention to someone in need. A person who is emotionally reactive cannot be a safe harbor for another. When you cultivate your own center, you become a resource. You become a point of stability in the systems you inhabit. Your family, your team, your community. Your calm is contagious. Your clarity can cut through confusion. Your patience can allow space for others to find their own answers. This is the higher purpose of the work. It is not just for your own peace, though that is a worthy goal. It is so that you can operate from a place of abundance, not scarcity. From a place of overflow, not depletion. You build your reservoir deep so that when others are thirsty, you have something to offer. You are not drawing from a shallow, muddy puddle of your own unmet needs. You are drawing from a deep, clear well. This transforms your relationships. You stop looking to others to provide you with stability you lack. Instead, you become a source of stability they can rely upon. That is leadership. That is maturity. That is the social expression of a mastered inner life. Consider the alternative. The person who has not done this work is often a source of drama, of demand, of unconscious emotional transfer. They are a liability in a crisis because their instability multiplies the problem. They cannot lead because they are still trying to manage their own internal chaos. They cannot love fully because their love is often a covert request for someone to fix their inner turmoil. Your inner work is the greatest gift you can give to the people you care about. It frees them from the burden of managing your emotional state. It allows the relationship to be about connection, not about therapy or crisis management. So when you feel the discipline is a solitary grind, remember this larger purpose. You are not just building a bridge for yourself. You are building a causeway others can walk on. You are creating a space of peace that others can enter and benefit from. This work is iterative. You will have days where the equilibrium feels natural, where discipline is effortless, where focus is laser sharp. And you will have days where you feel you have lost the blueprint, where the old reactions surface, where you succumb to distraction. This is not failure. This is data. The down days are part of the feedback loop. They are not a sign that the principle is wrong. They are a sign that you are human, and that maintenance is required. The key is to not let a down day become a down week. To not let a single lapse become a narrative of collapse. This is where the principle of correction comes in. You simply return to the sequence. You learn from the lapse. What triggered it? You apply the correction. Perhaps an earlier bedtime, perhaps a digital curfew. You evaluate the result. You persist. The flywheel may have slowed, but it is still turning. Few focus pushes, and it regains its momentum. Forgive yourself for the lapse immediately. Do not waste emotional energy on guilt or self-recrimination. That only deepens the dip. See it as a neutral event, a deviation in the data, and execute the correction. This emotional neutrality about your own missteps is a hallmark of true inner strength. You are not your performance. You are the director of the performance. A good director doesn't scream at an actor for flubbing a line. They simply say, let's take it again from the top. As you progress, your relationship with time will change. The frantic urgency that characterizes so much of modern life will begin to subside. You will develop what can only be called a strategic patience, but it feels more like a deep trust in process. You will understand that meaningful things unfold on a schedule you cannot rush. You will stop looking for shortcuts to the inner state you desire, because you will know there are none. The shortcut is the discipline. The hack is the daily practice. This trust allows you to work with a calm relentlessness that is far more powerful than frantic effort. You are no longer in a race against others or against some arbitrary clock. You are engaged in a cultivation, and cultivation cannot be rushed. You plant, you water, you weed, you wait. You enjoy the sunshine and endure the storms, knowing both are part of the growth cycle. This long view patience is the ultimate expression of your equilibrium. It means your happiness, your sense of self-worth, is no longer tied to daily fluctuations. It is tied to your fidelity to the process itself. That is an unshakable place to stand. In practical terms, what does this look like on a Tuesday afternoon when everything is going wrong? The computer crashes. The critical email was misunderstood. You have a headache. The old pattern would be frustration, a spike of anxiety, maybe a snapped comment to a colleague, followed by hours of feeling scattered and ineffective. The new pattern, built on your inner equilibrium, is different. You feel the surge of frustration. The signal. You pause. You take one deep conscious breath. This breath is the insertion of space. In that space, you access your blueprint. You assess factually. The computer needs rebooting. The email can be clarified with a phone call. The headache may mean you need water and a 5-minute break. You address the first actionable item. Reboot the computer. While it reboots, you get a glass of water. You take 2 minutes to close your eyes. You then make the phone call to clarify the email, speaking from a place of calm assumption of good intent, not blame. The entire crisis is de-escalated internally before it can contaminate your environment. The afternoon is recovered. This is not magic. This is trained response. This is the inner architecture bearing the load. This is the bridge holding. No one may ever know you just handled a mini crisis with poise. But you know. And that knowledge, that evidence of your own growth, is the reward. It deposits confidence into your internal account. It makes the next challenge easier to face. So we return always to the principle. Your inner equilibrium is the bedrock. Everything else is built upon it. Your career success, your relationship health, your creative output, your personal joy. All of these are superstructures. They can only be as stable as the foundation upon which they rest. To focus on the superstructure while neglecting the foundation is the great error. It is the error of our age. We polish the visible parts and wonder why the whole structure groans and shifts under strain. Your assignment, therefore, is clear. Shift your primary focus inward. Make the quality of your inner state your most important project, not to the exclusion of external action, but as the prerequisite for effective external action. Your outer world will come to reflect the order, the clarity, and the strength you cultivate within Dot. This is a lifelong practice. There is no graduation day. There is only the continual deepening, the continual strengthening, the continual refinement. The master is not someone who has reached a finish line. The master is someone who has fallen in love with the practice itself, who finds satisfaction in the careful laying of each brick, the steady tightening of each bolt. The joy is in the craftsmanship of your own character. The peace is in the knowing that you are capable of meeting life from a position of strength, not a position of plea. Begin where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Start with the next hour. Guard your attention. Choose your response. Speak to yourself with respect. Take care of your physical vessel. Do one thing that builds depth. Then do it again. This is the path. It is walked step by step, thought by thought, choice by choice. You are the builder. The principle is your guide. The result is a life of poise, of power, of profound and quiet freedom. That life is not a fantasy. It is the inevitable consequence of applying the principle of your inner equilibrium day after day after day. So pick up your tools. The blueprint is clear. The materials are your moments. Begin the work.